computer. And we are recording. So thanks everybody for being here. My name's Gary B, and I've worked a lot with the Mission Hills counselors and Career College Center. We're going to be talking about WUE, and we're going to have some fun. We'll be done by noon. We'll be off the Zoom. I like to rhyme a little bit, but not all the time. So as we're thinking about WUE and what it is, there's a lot of confusion. And so I'll introduce myself quickly. GaryB. I work for the University of New Mexico, but not at the University of New Mexico. I started at UNM in 1974. There I am as a student. I am a regional admissions counselor. So I live in Ventura, California. Every college has an admissions office. And I tell every student, every counselor, connect with the admission counselor from that college. And especially during this time when there are so many changes. I was talking about how the pandemic and the pivot caused a lot of changes. We know students and counselors and parents especially are stressing about the process. And so today we're going to talk about going from stress to success and getting admitted. I always say it takes two things to go from stress to success: ask questions, follow directions. Sounds easy, right? And so when I say ask questions, follow directions, typically somebody says, so what are the questions? I say, well, we're going to cover some of the WUE questions today, but also who to ask. Ask admission counselors. We're the experts for our college, right? Every college has admission counselors. I'm regional. I live in Ventura, so I cover California, Nevada, Oregon, Washington, but there are on-campus admission counselors as well. So students, counselors, I'm part of a group called RAC, and our website is regionaladmissions.com. There's 120 colleges that have regional admission counselors. So we represent small, urban, suburban, and right across the bottom of that screen are 5 WUE schools: Washington State, Dixie State, Northern Arizona, University of Colorado, Colorado Springs, of course, New Mexico. And so seniors, I always say it's not a matter of if or when, but where. By this time next year, seniors, you've graduated Mission Hills, you're getting ready to finish your first semester and take your Thanksgiving break. So when you're trying to decide where, there's lots of options. And look, I love California. You guys, we all live in California. And I always say, here's why people love California: babes, babe, Beverly Hills Beaches, boys, Beyonce, Bieber. Everything starts with a B because California is beautiful. Here's our beautiful traffic. That's the 405 freeway. I figured out why it was called the 405 because I was usually going 4 or 5 miles an hour for 4 or 5 hours with 405 of my best friends as I was trying to make my way from Ventura to San Marcos. There are 500,000 high school seniors in California. 500,000. That's 500,000 high school seniors in California. And we've got great options in our home state. We've got the 4-year university. I mean, you can go to Cal State San Marcos. It's right there. You can see it. You can look right over the hill and there's 9 UCs and 75 independent or private schools. And of course, there's 112 community colleges. So a couple hundred options in California for 500,000 high school seniors just in our home state. And just earlier today, I read that the enrollment increased at the Cal States this past fall. It's not going to let up. Many students want to stay home. I get it, especially during the pandemic. But many students are also saying, look, I know what's going on in California and I want to try something different. And I say out of state could be great. Many parents, students, counselors even think out of state costs more. Well, private schools don't have an in-state, out-of-state, resident, non-resident. And then some schools have a special program called WUE. And so what WUE affects is tuition. And I tell every student, when you're asking questions, always ask a college, what's the COA? How much will I pay? Okay. Now, you always ask, what's the tuition? That's not the total cost. There's also housing and dining. There's books and supplies, transportation. And my 2 best friends in life, JJ and SB, Jamba Juice, Starbucks, popcorn. So those 5 factors are the COA. And so let's take a look here. at the total cost of attendance. Public university in California, it's going to be between 20 and 35,000 if you're a resident in California, right? If you're a non-resident and you leave, out-of-state schools are almost lateral in cost to a UC. New Mexico and the UCs, same cost if you're a resident in California or a non-resident going to New Mexico. Now, private schools, again, no in-state, out-of-state. And I know students see that and parents, and they say, OMG, oh my GaryB, that's a ton of dough to go. It's so much money, it's not even funny. So let's talk WUE. The money doesn't fall from the sky, but it's a great way to pay for college. And so I like to always make things kind of fun. So I say, all right, everybody, let's take a quick exam. What does WUE mean? Wild undergraduate experience, WE underwrite education, Western undergraduate exchange, answers B and C, all of the above, which is my favorite usually, but answer C, WUE. So it's called the Western Undergraduate Exchange. Doesn't mean you need to wear a cowboy hat and boots, right? But it's pronounced WUE, WUE. All right, so if you're ever talking to a school, you want to ask about the WUE. This website right here will take you to the schools that have the WUE tuition program. But once you get to that, then check with the admission counselor, right? I always said, ask questions, follow directions, check with the admission counselor. And students, counselors, you can go to the RAC, the regionaladmissions.com website, and there's a link there to every college that has WUE and other colleges as well. So witchy.edu/WUE will take you to a master list and then niche down and get to know those. So here, let's talk about how WUE works and what it is. WUE is simply tuition reduction at the schools that offer the program. And you're saying, great, how do I get it? Well, let's just kind of reiterate that WUE schools have resident tuition, non-resident tuition, and a special WUE tuition. Resident tuition, you live in that state, right? Non-resident, you're coming from out of state. So in reciprocity or WUE, yeah, I call it the good neighbor policy. Students from California can go to neighboring states. What states? Well, we're going to look at that in just a minute. Let's take a look at how the tuition works. Hey, if you're a resident, and let's say you're going to a state school, public school, tuition would probably be around $6 grand. As a non-resident, it's substantially more, 24. If you qualify and get the WUE tuition, the maximum WUE tuition is $9 grand at this sample example school. So the tuition has dropped dramatically, and typically it continues for 4 years. So what WUE does is lower the tuition. It doesn't affect housing and dining, money for books, Jamba Juice, doesn't change that, right? Then a student can also get financial need-based aid and other merit scholarship. So WUE is simply a tuition. How do you get the tuition? Well, if you live in a state, you're not going to get it for that state. And when you leave, you can't establish residency. If you went to New Mexico, you could establish residency in 1 year, Utah, 1 year. So some states it's really simple, but not while you're on the WUE tuition. Because again, WUE tuition is just a little bit more than the resident tuition. So lots of schools all across the US, but let's look at the West. Look at Utah, Colorado, New Mexico, Wyoming, Idaho, Montana. There's just not a lot of schools. Now look at California, a lot of schools. Oregon, Washington, a lot of schools. So the neighboring states said, hey, students, look over here and we'll help. So here's the 15 states that formed the coalition to help students look at out-of-state schools. You can go from California to Colorado, Arizona, New Mexico, Montana, Wyoming, Idaho, New Mexico, Washington, Oregon. You can even go to Hawaii or New Mexico. These states outside of California are looking for, there's 500,000 high school seniors in California. So out-of-state schools said, hey, welcome aboard. We're your good neighbor. Look at how many students left California last year to head out of state on the WUE tuition. 17,000 students. That's a large portion. And then they also could have got other scholarship to reduce their cost even more and need-based FAFSA aid. So there's 160 2- and 4-year schools. Generally speaking, students are going to stay home in California to do a 2-year school, right? Basically, they're tuition free. There's 87 4-year schools. There's 70 that are out of state. There's 17 that are in California. There are California schools that are looking for students. Students aren't flocking to UC Merced, right? So UC Merced goes to Arizona, Colorado, New Mexico and says, hey, you want a UC education? Come take a look. We've got the WUE program. So not every public school in every state has the WUE program. Let's talk Oregon as an example. Oregon, here's the 6 colleges, universities that have the WUE tuition. And you're saying, wait, what's missing? Well, University of Oregon, look, they're not discounting their tuition. Students from California that want to go to Oregon are paying full price. And Oregon State this year, for the first year, started offering the WUE tuition to California students. How do you get it? Well, we're going to talk about that because each school's a little different. Each college and university sets their own qualifications to get WUE. So it's pretty simple. There's 70 out-of-state schools. There are 70 different qualifications. Each school, right? You've got to talk to the admissions counselor. And you're saying, GaryB, that's crazy. I didn't make up the program. I'm just telling you what it is. You got to get admitted. Here's how you get admitted. Ask questions, follow directions. Don't miss deadlines. Some colleges even have a separate application for WUE. New Mexico doesn't. Some do, right? How will you know? Ask questions, check in with the admission counselors. All right. Every college sets their own requirements, true or false. I should have done a poll right now. Yes. Websites are 100% accurate every time, every minute. We're updating as quick as we can. Admission counselors know the answers. Check with us, all right? Every college sets their own requirements. We're trying to update the websites as much as possible, as quickly as possible, but we're going to get the information before we update the website, all right? Some colleges, you can get admitted and not get WUE. You're going, whoa, how's that happen? Well, they've got academic qualifications. Some even are still requiring the SAT or ACT to get the WUE tuition. You've got to check with the admission counselor. I know this seems complicated, but we're going to try and winnow it down here in just a minute. So you may get admitted, you may get WUE automatically, you may have to apply, but you definitely want to start that conversation with the admission counselor. You'll know what schools have WUE, and you can stack FAFSA, need-based aid, because again, the WUE is a tuition. You've got resident, non-resident WUE tuition. So the FAFSA could cover, if you got a 0 EFC, and I don't want to get too much into the FAFSA, you could essentially have your tuition covered at an out-of-state school. Amazing, right? So there are some schools that it's not every degree, not every program. At New Mexico it is, but some schools, because they have so many students in their home state that want to do that program, they don't need to offer the WUE tuition for that program. So again, check with the school and say, okay, this is the majors that I'm interested in. Are all my majors part of the WUE program? Hopefully they are, okay? Typically, WUE goes for 4 years unless you're a transfer. And with a transfer, it could be the number of units or years that you have left. It could be 2 years. Check with a college. Participating schools. I've said it again and again. Each college and university sets their qualifications to get WUE. There are 70 out-of-state, non-California schools, 4-year schools that have it, and everybody sets their own qualifications. So I'm going to talk about 10 schools that have WUE that are very popular with California students, and you're going to have their contact information right here, or again, you could go to regionaladmissions.com. So Kat lives in California. She represents Boise State University. And look here, this is what they were doing earlier. One of the first things I noticed is the big print at the bottom, December 15th, non-resident application and scholarship deadline. I think they've gone test optional, but again, you can check with CAT. But earlier, you could get a scholarship if you're a 3.0 student, but not the WUE tuition, right? And then if you were a little bit stronger student, a 3.3, you would get the WUE tuition. And again, check with CAT and what's going on with Boise State. They've got great programs, but I just want to emphasize again that each school is a little different. Colorado Mesa, they're in Grand Junction, a smaller community, not rural, but not a giant town either, not like Denver. It's a small community. I love Grand Junction. Now, Mia is your admission counselor. If you want to connect with Mia, simply you can email regionaladmissions.com and catch that. But here, let's look at the undergrad tuition. For a resident of Colorado, it's $8,300. WUE is $12,900. And what's it take to get WUE? Again, check with Mia and she'll tell you what it takes. Usually it's GPA predicated essentially now. It could be every student admitted gets it. Colorado State, all right, Elise is your admission counselor. And they do have scholarship and the WUE program. So you can get WUE and scholarship at Colorado State, and they're in Fort Collins, another Colorado school. Right? Oregon State, Delta is your admission counselor. You want to connect with Delta. She'll be able to tell you a little bit about Oregon State, what programs they have, what programs they're going to be on WUE. And so let's take a look at what it takes to get WUE at Oregon State. It's a holistic review. It is not guaranteed, and it's going to be 150% of the resident tuition. Every college is a little different. And I've already highlighted Boise State, 2 Colorado universities that have WUE, and now Oregon. So you're getting the picture. These are schools in the West. We're 4-year universities, and these are top tier schools that are looking for students. We want you, California students, all right? University of Alaska in Anchorage. Tiffany is your admission counselor. Right there's her email. If you ever thought you'd like to go to school in Alaska, Anchorage is a great option. All right. No SAT required. No WUE restrictions. So the minute that you're admitted at University of Alaska, Anchorage, you're getting the WUE tuition. All right. And so here's how that works. You know, I'm going to get admitted. I didn't need to take the SAT or ACT, and the cost. If you stayed in California and went to a UC, 31 grand. You can go to Alaska for 23, 24 grand. Tuition and fees, that's the WUE tuition, right? You automatically get it because you're from California and got admitted. Books, room and board, so it's a bargain, right? And that keeps going. All admitted students from California qualify for WUE tuition at the University of Alaska, Anchorage. Now let's talk another school in Colorado, University of Colorado, Colorado Springs. Vanessa is your admissions counselor. And I was talking with Vanessa earlier today, and they do have the WUE scholarship. They've got other scholarship. Connect with Vanessa and she'll explain what it takes to get WUE. All the colleges that I've mentioned currently are WUE tuition, but they've all got different parameters, different things to get the WUE tuition. You can get WUE tuition and scholarship and FAFSA at every school I've mentioned. We're all taking applications. You've missed no deadlines. University of Idaho in Moscow, right? Eva is your admission counselor, and there's her email. So again, if you're thinking, what programs do they have? Reach out to these schools. Let's look at the non-resident, the out-of-state tuition. It's 27 grand. Well, on the WUE, it's 12,000. And so that's amazing. That's a $15,000 a year discount. And it goes for 4 years. So your total cost is about 22,000. That's your tuition and fees, housing and dining, books and supplies, right? So, and it's not that much more than what a resident's paying. Nevada, Reno. I know a lot of students at Mission Hills love Nevada and they love Reno. Again, a great option. They do have WUE for all majors. Remember I said not every school, but this is a school, no impacted majors. And again, you'll reach out to Linda. She didn't, but yeah, I can connect you. I know the admission counselors for all these, and you've got my email, GaryB. Let's talk Utah and Brandon. Again, the University of Utah, Salt Lake City, big city, great environment, close to skiing. Let's take a look. WUE undergraduate guaranteed. If you get admitted, you're from California, you're getting the WUE tuition. So uh, lots of different schools, lots of different options, students. Washington State, they're in a smaller community. They're not even close to Seattle. They're actually closer to Idaho. And Sarah is your admission counselor with a 3.6 or higher GPA, $11,000 per year. The Cougar, and that's what the discount would be, right? That's not your tuition. And then there's a Cougar Award. So maybe you don't qualify for WUE, but you can still get other scholarships. Typically, you're not going to get WUE and Cougar. You won't get both, right? Those don't stack. That would be an $18,000 a year scholarship. And it goes each year for 4 years. And I'll talk lastly about the school that I went to and graduated from, the University of New Mexico. We're located in Albuquerque, or as I like to say, university not close to mom. And I know when people hear Albuquerque, they're thinking flat and hot. We're not. We're in the Rocky Mountains. So I always say, remember, UNM, University Next to Mountains. There's a ski resort 20 minutes from campus. We're the same elevation as Denver. 200 majors, UNM. You name a major, I'll talk about it. UNM, University for Nursing and Medicine, the largest hospital in the state of New Mexico. UNM, university with a number of management programs. We've got 10 different business degrees. Engineering, UNM, university with nuclear, mechanical, and other engineering programs, computer science. A lot of students are thinking film, and I always say UNM, University for Netflix movies. Netflix is headquartered in Albuquerque, and students have access to internships. Counselors, students, I know that some of you are just completely undecided. That's perfectly fine. UNM, undecided, no more, come explore, options galore, will open the door to something you're looking for. Housing, UNM, University Nice as a Marriott, 24/7 dining. UNM, unlimited number of meals. UNM, you need money, 3.0 will show you the dough. Every student with a 2.8, that's still great. With a 2.8, you're getting a $50,000 discount on you're paying the same as a resident of New Mexico if you have a 3.0 or higher. So let's do a quick review. Seniors could apply anytime. We don't require an essay, a personal statement, letters of rec. Counselors, I know that's okay. Don't worry, don't stress. And we don't require the test. Here's how it works. You apply, you get admitted. We're going to take a look at your GPA on your A through G coursework. If you have a 2.8, your tuition and fees is almost 13 grand. If you're a 3.0 or higher, it's 9 grand. If you're a 3.9 or higher, you're eligible to have a second scholarship. So typically I get a lot of 3.0, 3.6, 3.4 students from Mission Hills. Your tuition is $8,800. Your housing and dining's 10. Your books and supplies are 12. Your total cost at New Mexico is $20,000. Let's cut to the chase. Class of 2021, time to get it done. You can apply now. I'll tell you how. Do it online. It'll save you time. Use your phone. Do it at home. Either way, do it today. Then email me, GaryB, and I'll waive the fee. I'll make it free. Send your transcript. Don't worry about the test, and I'll do the rest. 3.0, a whole lot of dough to go to New Mexico. Don't be a fool. Stay in school. It's cool. Go to college. Get to knowledge. GaryB, remember me when you're making that list. UNM, University not to be missed. Because Marjorie's here, I'll dab. Hey, GaryB, remember me. All right, it's been fun talking WUE with you guys today. We've got about 2 minutes left, 3 minutes left for some questions. Fire away, GaryB. I'm ready to answer any questions about WUE or college in general. You guys can unmute yourself and we'll just keep going here. Marjorie, were there any questions? Eric, questions? Cheryl?
Nope, I didn't see any in the chat. Does anyone have any questions?
Well, again, regionaladmissions.com is a great website, and it's just that regionaladmissions.com, and you can.
Oh, there is one question, sorry. Is there a WUE program for graduate programs?
Yeah, it is. It's called WICHE, W-I-C-H-E, but definitely, and that's basically how it started. The out-of-state schools, there were schools that didn't offer certain graduate programs, but we needed students. So students were staying closer to home and getting that out-of-state experience and that graduate education. So yeah, definitely there's a WUE tuition program. It's not called WUE, it's called WICHE.
Perfect.
Same website, wiche.edu.
And then ASU, part of WUE?
Part of ASU is part of WUE. So again, if you're going to the Tempe campus, which is their main campus, and it's not every major at ASU either. So you've got to check in, and if you need to connect with the ASU counselor, I certainly can do that.
Yeah, her name is Amelia, and just so everyone knows, I posted a link to the Google Sheet that has all of our regional representatives' contact information on there. You could also email me if there's somebody that you're looking for who's not on the list.
Yeah, Amelia's great. She's a great.
Amelia, it's great.
A lot of students love Arizona State. My dad's a Sun Devil, and so I've always had an affinity. I just don't like that kind of heat. But
what is the earliest you can apply?
Well, for juniors can apply in June. It's not too soon. Seniors can apply now and do it online. It takes 20 minutes. And if anybody wants to Zoom with me, I'll walk you through the application. We can just set it up, email me and say, hey, GaryB, I want to do the UNM application. In 20 minutes, you're done and you're getting a $60,000 scholarship. I wish I could make $60,000 in 20 minutes.
I know, right?
Yeah, unofficial transcripts are fine.
There is another question. Do out-of-state requirements align with international student requirements, or does it differ?
They're similar. Sometimes it depends on a student and a university. At New Mexico, they're very, very similar. And if a student had got their high school education in California, that's going to meet most of the international requirements. Like you won't have to pass a TOEFL, an English exam to prove that you can speak English. If you've done high school in California, we know you can speak English, generally speaking. I wish I could.
I think that wraps it up. I don't see any other questions in the chat. If there are any other questions that we missed, you guys please feel free to unmute yourself. Otherwise,
well, this has been recorded and I'll be sending it. So Marjorie, Eric, Cheryl, everybody, thanks for being here and thanks for doing this. I'm glad to be part of WUE. I'm happy to help your students, and reach out to me, GaryB, and I'll take care of you guys. All right.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thanks.